सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम्
अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां
वन्दे
गुरुपरम्पराम्।
ॐ सहनाववतु भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं कर्वावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति। Om Tat Sat, Om Namah Shivaya. Good morning.
Om Tat Sat, Om Namah Shivaya.
So we were on mantra 6 of the first chapter, so 116. So we'll just chant that mantra again. Yat tadadreshyam agrahyam agotram avaranam
Yat tadadreshyam agotram avaranam
achakshushrotram tadapanipadam
Achakshushrotram tadapanipadam
Nityam vibhum sarvagatam susukshmam
Nityam vibhum sarvagatam susukshmam
Tad avyayam yad bhutayonim paripashyanti dhiraha
Tadavyayam paripashyanti dhiraha.
I'm muting you all. And we have seen adreshyam, not an object of perception of the senses. Agrahyam, not an object which can be grasped by the karmendriyas. Agotram, not having a gotram, so you cannot attribute birth to it, so unborn basically. Agotram has to be taken as anadi, unborn. Avarnam, without any gunas, without any attributes. And achakshu, shrotram, not having ears and not having eyes, which means not having any sense organs. That is sense organs of knowledge. So your achakshu shrotram means not having jnanendriyas. And tat apanipadam, not having legs and hands, so not having karmendriyas also. That much we saw in the last class. Now we will look at the third line, the first word, nityam. So nityam is, of course, we all know, not limited by time. Kala is not, kala, parichinnatvam is not there. There is no limitation by time, which means not born and will not be destroyed. So even when the entire creation, including time and space, are destroyed, this Brahman will remain as Brahman. No problem is there. Okay. Then the next word is Vibhum. So Vibhum generally means Sarvagataha, all pervading. Vibhu is all pervading. But if you look at the the particular sentence of the mantra, it says Nityam Vibhum Sarvagatam. So if you take Vibhum as all-pervading, then Sarvagatam is also all-pervading, which means there is a dosha of repetition. And a Punar Ukti dosha will be there in the mantra, which you cannot attribute. So Shankara says, you should not take Vibhum as all-pervading. So take Vibhum as Vividham Bhati iti Vividham. That is to say, the one which appears in many, many forms. So it seemingly appears in many forms. It is pervading in all forms. The meaning is that this Brahman is pervading everywhere in all forms, and therefore it seems to appear in many, many forms. So it's very close to Sarvagatam. Okay, Sarvagatam means all pervading, appearing everywhere. But here it is a slight deviation, meaning because it appears everywhere, it is all pervading. That is why it appears everywhere. And therefore, it is called Vibhu, which appears as multiple things. For example, gold can be said to be Vibhu, because gold appears as bangle, Gold appears as your necklace. Gold appears as your toe ring. All are gold only, and it appears differently in different forms, yet it is the same. Therefore, it has to be carefully understood as even though not changing, not divisible, even though without parts, it appears to have many parts. A very, very careful definition. So Vibhu is in appearing as many. In fact, there is a Aranyakam, Taitriya Aranyakam. As you know, Aranyakam is part of the Veda. And there is a Taitriya Aranyakam where it says, Ajayamanaha Bahuda Vijayate. Without being born, Ajayamanaha, without being born, Bahuda Vijayate, it is born in multiple ways. So from the point of view of various products, from the point of view of, for example, the necklace and the ring and the bangle and the toe ring, what is gold? It is the Upadana Karanam. So here Ajayamanaha Bahuda Vijayate means this Brahman, even though not born, appears to be born in the form of various living beings. And therefore it can be taken as the Upadana Karanam also. And therefore Shankara gives an example. He says, it's a very famous example, he gives it very often. He says, Brahmadi Thavarantaha Prani Bhedhair Bhavati Iti. So he says, this Brahman is seen in the form of Prani Bhedaha, all forms of pranis, different pranis. Like what? Like Brahma Adi, like Lord Brahmaji. So Brahmaji is Hiranyagarbha, right? And up to Sthavara. Sthavaram is basically, it has two meanings. It can be either a small plant or it can be a very small non-living thing, you know. But because of the context and because of the word, what is the context? The word is the use of the word prani. That's because of the context, we can take it as a small plant, a small living thing, or a small bacteria, whatever. So from Hiranyagarbha to even bacteria, this Brahman alone appears. Of course, with our current knowledge of Vedanta, can we say that Brahman appears only as living things? No. And therefore, we should supply in our mind and also non-living things. In short, everything. So Brahman appears not only as the largest entity, which is Lord Brahmaji, but also as the smallest plant living entity, which is, or a smallest bacteria also, smallest living entity, as also in all non-living things. So that is the definition of Vibhu. The next word is Sarvagatam. Sarvagatam is a word known to us, all-pervading, not limited by space, not limited, they're everywhere, present everywhere. But the difference is that though everything is located in space, space itself is located in Brahman, right? The Sarvagatam aspect of Brahman has to be understood in this manner because it is pervading everything as the very Karanam, as the very cause of the thing. Like the gold pervades the bangle in its entirety. As what? As the Karanam for the bangle. And therefore, we have to understand that the bangle is not different from the gold. So this Sarvagata Tattvam is to be understood in that manner. Because of its pervasion of the entire universe, as the very Karanam of the universe, Brahman is not different from the universe. And this is the reason why this mantra mentions Sarvagatam separately from Vibhum. Otherwise, Vibhum would have been sufficient, right? Vibhum just means that appears in many forms, but you have to qualify that by Sarvagatam by saying that since Brahman is the Karanam for everything, that is why it is Vibhum, right? Because it is the Karanam for everything, that is why it appears in everything, it appears in all the forms. So that is Sarvagatam, a very minor technical difference, but we should understand. So, and you read both together, Vibhum and Sarvagatam, it will make sense. that because it is Sarvagatam, it is Vibhum also. Because everything that is there is only Brahman. So Brahman appears as all the multiple things in this universe. The next one is Susukshmam. Sukshmam is subtle. Susukshmam is extremely subtle. Very difficult to understand. Because I can never know this Brahman as anything other than I myself, the knower. So it is the invariable part of Brahman is the knower. And in the knower, the known and the knowledge, the Triputi, Pramata, Prameyam, and Pramatitram. The only invariable is what? Is the knower. Pramata, Pramanam, Prameyam. That which is you in that part is the knower. So the only invariable is the knower. And therefore, Sarvam Brahmam has to be understood as at Brahman, which is the knower everywhere. And again, we have to be very careful here, because Brahman has no mind, so Brahman cannot know. But Brahman in the form of Easwara has a mind which is Maya, and that Maya is also the mind, is also an operative agency, therefore it can act as a reflecting medium. Reflecting medium is the mind. And therefore, this Ishvara has to be understood in this manner. Extremely subtle, but possible to understand how in only one manner. That Ishvara, that Brahman is I alone. There is no other way in which Brahman can be understood. So Susukshmam has to be understood as, cannot be understood in any manner as any object. There's only one way of understanding that. I, Brahman, the very Pramata, the very knower. I have to say that I am Brahman and I know that I am Brahman. But for that also I need a mind. Of course, that understanding is there. But that is the only way to understand Susukshmam. Not possible to understand in any manner other than as I, the knower, I, the Brahman. Then Tad Avyayam. So, Avyayam is changeless, having no vikara. Vyaya is vikara, change. Avyaya means no vikara, which means it doesn't go through any of the shad vikaras. There is no birth, there is no growth, there is no decay, and there is no death. So shad vikaras are not there at all. Avyayam has to be taken in that manner, completely changeless. And then yet bhuta yonihi. Yoni is the womb. Bhutam is all beings, and here you can take bhuta as the living as well as non-living. So Brahman is bhuta yoni, the cause of all things and beings, and therefore bhuta yoni means jagat karanam, the creator of the universe. And this is the reason, because Brahman is the creator, and remember Vibhum also. Because Brahman is also Vibhum, that same Brahman appears as the universe. Thus the Karanam alone will be appearing as the product. Just as when you look at a chair or a table, what you are looking at is the Karanam, the wood alone. And of course, I mean Upadana Karanam, right? Clay alone appears as pots. In the same way, Brahman alone appears as all the manifold forms of the universe. Therefore, if you look at the universe, at Jagat, you can reclassify by saying that it is nothing but Brahman plus Nama Ropaha. And that is why it's called Vibhuhu. Vividam Bhati iti Vibhuhu. That which appears as many, that is Vibhuhu. So, what is Brahman over here? Vibhum is the Upadana Karana. Brahman is the Upadana Karanam in the form of Maya, of course. If you look at Brahman alone, it is Nimitta Karanam. But whenever you say is Karanam, you have to be very clear which Karanam you are talking about. Is it Upadana Karanam or is it Nimitta Karanam? And because you are saying Vibhum over here, it is appearing, we have to say that this Bhuta Yoni is Upadana Karanam. So whenever I experience this world, what am I experiencing? The takeaway from this mantra is what? When I open my eyes and see the trees, I should think of it as Brahman in the with the Nama Rupa of a tree. When I see my eyes and look at the mountains, I should think of it as Brahman in the Nama Rupa of a mountain. So wherever I look, whatever object I see, I have to see that the Upadana Karanam is Brahman alone. Whatever I am seeing is actually Brahman alone. And he says, Paripashyanti Dhiraha. Tat Paripashyanti Dhiraha. Dhiraha is those people, those students who have got Chitta Shuddhi, who have got a prepared intellect, which means he has got cognitive skills, analytical mind, and he has emotional maturity. These people are the ones who are able to understand Brahman in this manner. How do you get this emotional maturity and this expansion of the mind? So Upanishad prescribes various sadhanas. One of them is Akasha Dhyanam, meditating on Akasha. Why is it more difficult? Because Akasha is formless. It is easy to meditate on Saguna Brahman because you have a form in front of you, Krishna form, Shiva form, Vishnu form. But from there, for expansion of mind, we have to do what is called expansion meditation. We have to move on to Akasha. And meditating on Akasha, we can appreciate the existence principle as formless. Okay, to come back to our discussion, Brahman is therefore the Kartru, the creator. And not just the creator. Brahman is also the karma, the product. Brahman is both the creator and the created. And it is all a point of view, right? So you take, for example, my hand and my chin. Both are parts of me, right? Now, if I take my hand and scratch my chin, who is the scratcher and what is the scratched and who is the scratched? So from one point of view, from the point of view of my hand, I am the scratcher. From the point of view of my chin, I am the scratched, right? So this understanding is necessary here. Also, look at the various karanams. When something undergoes a change to become something else, that is to say, when it's in the process of the transformation, when the essential nature of the karanam, the cause, is lost and the karyam becomes entity with a new nature, it is called a parinami upadana karanam, right? When the karanam has a nature X, but in the process of becoming the karyam, the product, it undergoes a transformation, which means that the original karanam nature is no longer available. A fresh nature has come about. That is called a parinami upadana karana. What is an example of this?
Milk and curd.
In curd.
Milk and curd. So that's a very famous example. When milk is the original karanam, it becomes curds, the nature is changed. Now, when gold becomes a necklace, is it parinami karanam?
No.
Yes or no?
No,
No.
Why not?
because it is still gold.
It is still gold. And therefore, this kind of a change where the essential nature of the karanam does not go away, it is called vivarta upadana karana. Okay. Remember, there is another example of vivarta upadana karanam where even this physical change is not there. Okay, that is the snake rope example. Because here in the gold becoming a necklace, at least there is a change in the form. But in the case of the rope becoming the snake, it is a complete adhyasa, a complete superimposition. So that difference we need to remember. Both are vivarta upadana karanams, but there is a difference in the quality. Okay. So if with all this discussion, we can understand that Brahman is Sat. It is the existence principle. And therefore, by lending existence to any name and form, another form is generated. It's a very, subtle idea. Anything can have a name and form, but for that thing to exist, it must have existence attribute. And that existence attribute can come only from Brahman. Therefore, Brahman can lend that existence attribute to any name and form. It can change into multiple forms. That is what is meant by Vibhuhu, appearance in multiple forms. And this is possible. The idea of Brahman appearing in multiple forms is possible only for one reason. Brahman has no form, right? Therefore, anything which has any attribute borrows existence from where? From Nirguna Brahman alone, because Nirguna Brahman alone has that existence attribute which can be borrowed. Sat, Chit, Ananda are the attributes of, you really can't call it attributes, are the nature of Brahman alone. And unless Brahman is there, you cannot borrow that. Thankfully, Brahman is there everywhere. So with that commentary is over. Any questions on that? It's a very, very important one. I would suggest that again and again and again you should, what they call, go over the commentary and understand the meanings as such. The complete concept of what is Brahman has to be understood from this particular mantra. You don't find this anywhere else.
Om Acharya ji.
Yeah.
So the two terms Vibhum and Bhuto-yonim. So both are the Upadan, both are talking about the Upadan Karanam only, but the Vibhum is referring more to the product form of it, and the Bhut-yonim is the creator form of it, the cause of it. Is that the difference between the two?
It's a very subtle difference actually. So Bhutoyonim can be taken as the product, as the creator, as a Nimitta Karanam actually, right?
Okay,
But
thank you.
the Vibhum part can be taken as the Upadana Karanam. Vivarta Upadana Karanam in this case. There is no Parinami Upadana Karanam at all.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Acharya, is
Yeah.
Sarvagatam and Sarvavyapi the same thing? There's another word, Sarvavyapi.
It's the same thing. It's providing everywhere or covering everything. Vyapi means to cover. So it's the same thing. Different names, different words.
Ji, thank you.
Okay. So we look at the seventh mantra. We will chant. Yathornabhi srujate grannate cha.
यथोर्नवाभिसृजते गृह्णते च
यथा पृथिव्याम् ओषधयः सम्भवन्ति
यथा पृथिव्याम् ओषधयः सम्भवन्ति
यथा सतः पुरुषात् केशलोमानि
यथा
सतः
पुरुषात्
केशलोमानि
केशलोमानि
तथा अक्षरात् सम्भवतीह विश्वम्
तथा
So yatha, just as Urna Nabhi, the spider, Srijate, creates, Grannate, withdraws, cha. So and. So Srijate and Grannate, just as the spider creates and withdraws, you have to supply somewhere. What to supply? The web. That is number first example. Then yatha prithivyam, from the earth, oshadhaya sambhavanti, herbs and plants are born. That is second example. And yatha, just as sataha. So sataha here means living. The person which is alive. So sataha purushat, from the living human, or the living human being, Keshalomani, hair comes. Kesha is the hair on the head. Keshalomani, hair comes on the head and the body. Tatha, similarly, Aksharat, from the imperishable Brahman, Sambhavati ha Vishvam. This Vishvam, this universe is born. So as the spider projects the web from its own body and withdraws the web into itself, that is the first example. As the herbs and plants grow from the earth, that is second example. As the hair grows on the head and the body of a human being, that is the same third example. In the same manner, the universe is born out of imperishable Brahman. So, here two words which we saw earlier are relevant, Bhutayoni and Vibhum. So, Bhutayoni and Vibhum are both Jagat Karanam. Bhutayoni is the Upadana Karanam, and Vibhum is that which becomes many. So, the Bhutayoni alone becomes many. Okay, so this carefully to be understood. Bhutayoni is the Upadana Karanam which appears as many. And its Karanam alone appears as the Karyam, the cause alone can appear as a product. How? By taking a different form and therefore a different name. The Karanam alone has Namarupa, which is different. And therefore, this Jagat Karanam is not Brahman. It is Maya Sahita Brahman, Ishvara. Remember that in Upanishads, in the Bhagavad Gita, we talked about Brahman very clearly, Atman very clearly, and Ishvara very clearly as distinct. But in Upanishads onwards, and especially in the Brahma Sutras, you will find that the word Brahman is used in the term of Ishvara also. That is, as a substitute for Ishvara, it is used. And therefore, we have to look at the context to see whether it is Maya Sahita Brahman or Maya Rahita Brahman. Whether it is pure Brahman or it is Brahman with Maya, which is being referred to. That will appear only from the context. And now, here we are saying Brahman alone appears as the world, which is what context? It is the Maya Sahita Brahman. Because Brahman by itself cannot do anything. Karanam is Maya only. Upadana Karanam is Maya only. Therefore, when you say Brahman appears as Jagat, you are talking about Ishvara. Maya Sahita Brahman. And this is the answer to the question which was asked earlier. By knowing this Maya Sahita Brahman alone, everything in the world can be known. So in the next three verses, that is verse number 7, verse number 8, and verse number 9, they are a commentary on the two terms Bhuta Yoni and Vibhum, which are very, very important. So what are they saying? Cause alone appears as product. Karanam alone is appearing as the Karyam. From the clay only, all the pots, the plates, utensils, everything comes from clay only. Brahman alone has the Nama Rupa within it in potential form. So this is an idea which is now being presented. Where does this Nama Rupa come from? Because in the beginning there was only Brahman. And therefore, before the universe is formed, Brahman alone is there. Therefore, you cannot say that Nama Rupa came from somewhere else. So Brahman alone has the potential Nama Rupa in it. And when you take that idea that Brahman has all Nama Rupa within it in a potential form, Avyakta Nama Rupa. What can be the other name of Avyakta Nama Rupa which we are familiar with?
Maya.
Avyakta Maya. You have to be very careful. Avyakta Maya. What is Vyakta Maya?
What is manifested in the gross form?
What is
And
it? What is another name?
Virat, Hiranyagarbha Virat Ru.
Anybody else? Another name for Vyakta Maya? A more common name.
Jagat.
Jagat. Okay, so Vyakta Maya is Jagat and Jiva, and Avyakta Maya is basically the potential portion, which is Avyakta Maya, which is the what is there before creation is there. So Brahman in this context, wherever we are talking about Brahman in the Vyavaharika plane, is always associated with Maya Shakti. But we should be very careful. Brahman is not Ishvara. By itself, pure Brahman is not Ishvara. Brahman and the Avyakta Nama Rupa together, which we call Maya, that is Ishvara. Therefore, whenever we say Jagat Karanam, it is Maya Sahita Brahman. And now comes the question. When you say Ishvara is the Karanam for the universe, what type of Karanam is Ishvara? There are various types of Karanams, right? So what type of Karanam is Ishvara? Whenever you discuss the creation of anything, not necessarily of the world, of any object, we require two types of Karanams. Take for example the gold. So you require two Karanams, the maker and the material. So the maker is called the intelligent or the instrumental or the efficient cause. And in the case of a gold chain, that nimitta karanam, intelligent, instrumental, efficient, three adjectives I can think of, is the goldsmith. And the upadana karanam, the material cause, is the gold. Similarly, for the table, wood is the upadana karanam. The carpenter is the nimitta karanam. Similarly, for the pot, the clay is the upadana karanam. The pot is the potter, is nimitta karanam. And therefore you can ask a question. This Ishvara, is he the upadana karanam or is he the nimitta karanam? If you look at some of the Upanishads, they declare that before creation only Ishvara existed. Okay, what is the answer? The answer is that normally for any creation, we accept that two causes are required. The nimitta and the upadanam, and they are usually separate. But Vedanta says that there are some exceptions. And this verse is pointing out that the spider, in nature you can find a spider, the spider is an example. And therefore to understand God, we have to look at the lowly spider. Okay. When the spider wants to weave a web, what does it do? It brings the material from the web out of its own body, right? But who is the one who weaves the web? It is a spider. Therefore, the spider is the nimitta karanam. Where is the raw material? The spider does not have to go to the shop to buy the web raw material. The raw material is available within itself. The spider creates a strand of web from within its body and it hangs from the ceiling and goes on creating the web. And if you have seen the spider coming up and down from the ceiling, how does it go? The strand of the web is stuck on the ceiling and the spider goes on creating and the web goes on elongating, the spider comes down. And when the spider wants to go up, it starts swallowing that particular thread and that's how it goes up. So the web is projected from the spider and resolves into the spider, because when it does not need the web goes back. When it needs the web comes out. And therefore, the spider is also the upadana karanam. Not only is the nimitta karanam, because it is the intelligent cause which is creating the web. Why? It knows. Why is it intelligent cause? It knows that if I create a web in the front room, the web is going to get destroyed. So it goes into dark corners, it goes behind the fridge, it goes behind the painting, and it creates the web. There is the intelligence there. That's spider is the nimitta karanam, the intelligent cause also. Yet the material is from within itself, and therefore it is the upadana karanam also. It is both nimitta and upadana karanam. So in Sanskrit we call it abhinna nimitta upadana karanam. Abhinna means not different. Non-different nimitta and upadana karanam. Non-different instrumental and material cause. Similarly, says Shruti, Ishvara is the abhinna nimitta upadana karanam of the universe. Why? Because when the time comes, he is able to project the universe from himself with the help of Maya. And when the time comes for resolution, he is able to resolve the universe into himself without any external aid. And that is why we say that before creation, only Ishvara existed. After creation also, it is only Ishvara who is existing. Right? Now, if you take the spider example, what he's basically saying is the web is not different from the spider. So you can say the web is also the spider. So that's a little stretch, but that is the way this is to be understood. So the taking away is what? The Vyakta Jagat, manifest universe, is Brahman. Right? Just as the web is the spider. And the Avyakta Jagat, the universe during Pralayam, is also Brahman. Just as the unmanifest web in the spider is also the spider. Is there a distinction? Yes. Brahman is Jagat, but Jagat is not Brahman. Right? The spider is the web, but the web is not the spider. The necklace, the gold is the necklace, but the necklace is not the gold. The pot, the clay is the pot, but the pot cannot said to be the gold. Do you see the difference? Why can you not say that necklace is gold? We can say gold is a necklace. Why should, though we very often say necklace is gold, why should you not say that from a Vedantic angle? Yes, Natarajanji.
Yeah, hello, Ravi ji. No, the necklace is just one form of the gold. The gold can take so many other forms.
Excellent. And that is why you cannot say necklace is gold, right? But you can say gold is necklace, gold is bangle, you can say. But you should not say necklace is gold. Very often we say, what is this? Oh, this necklace is gold, right? The way of the language we use incorrect. Of course, it's not very material. What is material is when you take that to Brahman and Jagat, you can definitely say that Brahman is Jagat, but Jagat is not Brahman. Okay. Which is the verse of the Gita which brings home this point? Anybody remembers? Chapter 10. Krishna brings home this point that I am the universe, but the universe is not me. Come on, guys. There are some Gita teachers here also. What about them? No? All right. I'll leave it to you for your homework. Okay. So please put that in the group whenever you find it. Okay. So Brahman is Jagat, but Jagat is not Brahman. And therefore remember that Maya can never be called a guna of Brahman. At the most, you can say that Maya is a upadhi. Okay, you should never say, very often we say, while discussing, while explaining, we all say that Maya is a guna, Maya is a attribute, but it is not. So even though loosely we are using the word attribute, we should always remember that attribute is usually intrinsic, and upadhi is not an intrinsic attribute. Therefore, it is better to use the term upadhi. Maya is a upadhi for Brahman. This is the reason why Shankara uses the word Ishvara very often interchangeably with Brahman and Brahman with Ishvara. In his commentary, you will find that usually he will say Brahman. And he leave it to you to find out whether it is Ishvara or not. There is only reason that both can be used. One should be careful about the context only. Okay, now let's look at the word Urnanabihi. So if you break the words Urna Nabihi, Urna is a string. Nabihi is the stomach. So can you put them together and give the meaning of Urnabihi?
The spider creates the web from his own stomach.
Well,
or the material.
Urnavi literally would mean that the one who carries the string in its stomach, which is what the spider. The Urnabihi sujate, he creates the web. Ghannate, he withdraws. Similarly, Ishvara. That is the first example. Second example is Prithvi. Out of the earth, Oshadaya Sambhavanti. All types of plants. Smallest plant, we call it touch me not in Kerala. I don't know if you know those plants. You touch them and they sort of fold into themselves. Smallest plants to the largest coconut trees or banyan trees, they are all born. And Shankara gives a definition, of course. He says, Vriha Adi. Vrihi means paddy. And Sthavarantaha. So Sthavaram here he takes as the largest tree. So Vriha Adi Sthavarantaha, he says, from paddy, small plant, the rice plant, up to huge trees. So from the smallest of plants to the biggest of trees, they are born from this earth alone. And so where did they come from? He says they are not different from the earth. He says these plants and trees are avyatiriktaha from the earth. Because you have to say that since it is the product of the earth, it is a karyam from the earth. So all this is there in the earth in potential form. Karyam is not different from karanam. That is the rule that is being illustrated here. This example is given normally from human parents, human children are born, right? But the verse is saying that from Ishvara, all types of living beings are born and not to be limited to gods only. And it can be any living being which is there is born from Ishvara only. So you must remember that normally there is a species restriction when you say something is born. A human can give birth only to a human. A dog can give birth only to a dog and so on. But here that species restriction has been taken away and you are saying that from Ishvara everything is born. Whether it be a dog or a cat or a snake or a human. That is there. Then the third example, Yataha, Sataha, Purushat Keshalo Manihi. So Sataha is what? Sataha is a living person. And Shankara adds in his commentary, Jivita Purushaha. So from the living person only, what is born? Nails and hair are born. Because this clarification Shankara gives, because when the body is dead, these two products will not be there. Now, what is being illustrated? From a sentient Karanam, which is the living person. Why hair and nails? Because they are Jadam, they are insentient. So from a sentient Karanam, an insentient Karyam is being born. That is being illustrated. That it is not necessary that the sentient living being gives rise only to a sentient product. A sentient Ishvara can give rise to insentient things also. So, and that is the example. From a sentient living being, insentient hair and nails are born. This is to address the objection that how can a mountain be born out of sentient Ishvara? Ishvara is a living being. How can a non-living mountain be born? So this particular example is given. And then therefore the meaning is out of the Purusha, out of the sentient Ishvara, all living things in this world and the inert things in this world are also born. And Jagat Karanam is called Aksharam Brahma because it is indestructible Brahman. And Aksharam Brahma is defined as pure existent Sat. That Ishvara alone is the Karanam for everything. So creation itself is various names and forms. Maya is avyakta nama rupa, potential names and forms. This Brahman Maya mixture, this Brahman avyakta nama rupa mixture has different names. We've got Ishvara, Purusha Prakriti, Kshetra, Kshetrajna, all that we have seen in Gita also. Therefore, it says Tatha Aksharat, just as in these three examples, various things are born. Tatha Aksharat, from that Brahman Maya mixture, Iha Vishwam Sambhavati. This Vishwam comes into existence. And Vishwam here means Indriya Gocharam, anything which is perceived. We should actually note one small little piece of wisdom which Shankara writes somewhere. What do you actually perceive? When you say, I perceive a yellow, let us say, glass, you perceive the color and you perceive the form. You can even perceive the texture with your hand. So your indriyas can perceive only what they can perceive. Eyes can see color, the hand can touch and eyes can see color and form, hands can touch and see the texture, your nose can smell and so on. So any cognition, any perception is by way of these five inputs only, right? The sum total of all the inputs is what? Is the universe. And therefore, what do we mean when we say Sambhavati? It's a very important point. What do we mean when we say Sambhavati? We say the universe has come. And therefore, you ask a question. For example, when you say a pot has come into existence, would you be comfortable with the statement saying a non-existent pot has come from existence, has come into existence? No, because nothing can come from nothing, we all know. Therefore, if a pot has come into existence, it must have existed before in some other form. In what form was that? In potential form in the clay. Remember, from non-existence, existence cannot come. And therefore, the Sambhavati, when you say, you can't take it as, something being created. You can only take it as a change of form. Avyaktam to Vyaktam. And therefore, really speaking, there is never any creation at all. But we use the word to indicate a change of form from unmanifest to manifest. We saw this in Bhagavad Gita more than once. So if you can locate those verses, please put them in the group so that others can also know where exactly these references were there in Bhagavad Gita. Very important point. Any creation is only a change of form. When water drops form, they are not created. It is water vapor changing into drops. When steam is formed, steam is not created. It is water form changing into steam form. We don't accept the fact that nothing can come out of nothing. Incidentally, Nyaya Vaisheshikas, they argue that Ishvara creates the world out of nothing. And that's a discussion and that's a theory which they call Arambhavada. So the Arambhavada, a little bit we'll discuss when we come to Brahma Sutra, which is quite a few years away. But the fact is that Vedanta does not accept the fact of creation. Here, creation meaning something coming out of nothing. And therefore, for us, we do what is called Satkaryavada. Whatever is created must have already existed before in a potential form. And therefore, if you are saying Jagat is created, that Jagat was existing as Avyakta Nama Rupa in Brahma. So with this, we'll stop for today because I have a staff meeting coming up. Any questions? No questions?
Acharya ji.
Yes, Jun.
Um, I have a question related when we say that we can like kind of talk about Maya in the way of the Upadhi of Brahman.
Come again?
We were saying that it's a better way to refer to Maya not as a quality of Brahman but as an Upadhi of Brahman.
It is always best. It's a superimposed attribute, yes.
But then I know we cannot understand Maya, and we should not try to because we will get more confused. However, it just comes to my mind like then like where this Maya comes from, but I know it's Anadi. But
you know that
yes,
Shastra says
but
Maya
it's
doesn't come from anywhere. It's always there.
yes. It's just my mind playing games, but
The word
it's very
Upadhi
confusing.
is to indicate that it is not a guna of Brahman. Because
Mm.
the moment you say guna, it makes it as real as Brahman. Like, for example, you say three gunas and Prakriti. Three gunas are only another name for Prakriti. And therefore, you don't say guna because you should not understand Maya as intrinsic to Brahman. It is there, but it is of a different level of reality. Therefore, it cannot be intrinsic.
But somehow it's part of Brahman somehow.
No, it's not.
Om Acharya.
Yes, please.
Om Acharya ji. So with this question only, so we have the Vyakta Maya or Jagat, and we have, like you said, Maya, which is Upadhi of Brahman, which is and Ishvara or Antaryami, if we take the Avyakt portion of it.
No.
So,
Antaryami is Samashti Karana Shariram. Okay.
so what is the difference between Antaryami and the Avyakt Antaryami and Ishvara OC plus Brahman or Ishvara plus Maya, like we say, which is
Very
the
basic
creator?
Tattva Bodha now. We shouldn't be discussing Tattva Bodha in this class.
Nimit and Upadan Karanam, the Abhinimit Upadan Karanam you said is Ishvara. This Ishvara is not the Antaryami that you're talking about.
We'll let Meda answer the question. Meda, are you there?
I missed that, Raviji. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Can you please repeat the question?
The question is, Medaji, Antaryami is Samashti Karan Shariram, which is the Avyakt, as I understand it. And so, what is the difference between Ishvara as the Nimit and Upadan Karanam and the Antaryami?
Okay. Ishvara as Nimitta and Upadana Karanam.
Abhin Nimit and Upadan Karanam, as Acharya ji mentioned.
Okay. And between Antaryami.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, they are similar, but we are looking from two different points of view, I would say. So Antaryami is the Avyakta Maya, of course, blessed by Brahman, OC. This Karanam, what we are talking about is, this Abhinna Upadana and Nimitta Karanam is from the point of view of, Jagat, I would say. I don't know if the concept of Karanam would apply in Avyaktam, because in Avyaktam there is no Karanam Karyam separation. I
Okay.
mean, there's no distinction. So,
See, basically, Samashti Karana Shariram is Karanam for what?
Hiranyagarbha.
Karanam for Hiranyagarbha and
So when you
Virat.
say Ishvara as the absolute Ishvara, it is always Samashti Karana Shariram. But Samashti Karana Shariram can't do anything. It cannot create the universe. There is no question of it being Nimitta or Upadana. Samashti Karana Shariram gives rise to Samashti Sukshma Shariram, which gives rise to the universe. Do you get what I'm saying?
So there is
Concept of
another
creation doesn't apply,
principle.
concept of Karanam doesn't apply, as Mida said, at the Karana Shariram level. Concept of Karanam applies to Ishvara at the Hiranyagarbha level only. So don't get confused with the two Karanams. Samashti Karana Shariram is Karanam for the other two Sharirams of Ishvara. But
Okay, Acharya.
Hiranyagarbha is the Karanam for the universe. You should be clear about the usage of words.
Okay, Acharya, I'll redo this portion again. Thank you.
Mida, do you agree
Uh,
with me?
Yeah, I got, I understand now. So Avyaktam is, that is, Antaryami is Avyakta Maya, but Hiranyagarbha is the one whom we actually call Abhinna Upadana and Nimitta
Exactly.
Karanam.
So the two words Karanam should not confuse us. It is a problem with Vedanta, because we keep skipping so many levels. Unless you are continuously in touch with Tattva Bodha, you will end up being confused.
Yeah, Acharya. Thank you.
Okay.
Actually, I got distracted because I was looking for the answer of that one you asked. That
Did you find it?
So I found it, the 10th chapter, 42nd last verse.
Yes.
Ekam Shena Sthito Jagat.
Absolutely. So that is what it means. That with the whole universe, I am supporting the small part of me. And therefore, Brahman is universe, but universe is definitely not Brahman. It's only Ekamsha, small part of. Okay, so with this, we'll stop. Thank you for your patience. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti
Shanti.
Om Tat Sat
Om
Om
Tat
Namah
Sat. Om
Shivaya.
Namah
Thank you for your
Shivaya.
patience.
Thank you, Acharya.
Namah Shivaya.
Thank you.